Johnny Talk Sports are my Week 5 college football predictions. Last week I went 7-3, including getting the 2 bonus games right. That was a good response to the bad Week 3, but I am back with my Week 5 predictions. Let's carry that momentum into last week and put it forth to this week. So 10 more great matches this week. I'm not planning on doing any bonus games. I don't have them written down anywhere, but I'll maybe have some little bonus picks toward the end of the video if I can think of it when we get there. But let's start off with the Friday night matchup that everyone's going to be talking about. Number 5 USC versus number 16 Washington State. Now USC has not looked like the consistent team that they were in the second half of last year. In fact, Sam Darnold has already thrown 7 interceptions this year. But Washington State, they've come through in the clutch a bit, especially in week 2 against Boise State, coming back from 21 down in the fourth quarter with a backup QB. But Luke Falk returned to the lineup. This is set to be a great matchup. I think that Washington State will be able to challenge USC in this matchup, especially if USC makes mistakes in this ballgame again. If Washington State can take advantage of USC miscues, I think they can have a good chance to win this ballgame. But I just think USC, they'll be challenged enough, though. I think they'll be challenged. I think they're going to grind it out. I think they're going to get a one-possession victory. I think it's going to be really close. Offensive battle. I'm going to say somewhere in the range of the high 40s, low 50s. Thinking about 52-48 or 49-42. I think it'll be a one-possession game from start to finish. Next, we got Northwestern versus number 10 Wisconsin. Wisconsin's coming off the bye week, which I think this is simple enough. I got Wisconsin win this matchup against Northwestern, but there could be a possibility that Wisconsin gets challenged in this matchup as well. But I just can't see it right now. Wisconsin, they're looking like a consistent team, despite not doing well in the first half against Utah State on opening weekend. But I think Wisconsin will get the W in this matchup. I think it should be a 14-point victory for these Badgers. Moving on, Vanderbilt versus number 21 Florida. Vanderbilt, how do they respond after losing 59-0 in their home venue to the number 1 team in the country, Alabama? But Florida has come through in the clutch twice. In fact, they've gotten lucky the last 2 weeks. The Hail Mary against Tennessee and the missed field goal at the end of the game by Kentucky. Honestly, if Florida keeps winning, I'm almost getting 2013 Auburn vibes out of this team. I'm getting 2012 Notre Dame vibes out of this team. If they keep winning in luck fashion, that's what I'm going to be thinking about this. Especially if they happen to go to the SEC Championship game again this year. But I think Florida, they're going to be challenged this game as well. I think the offense is going to have to get going a bit, because their defense has risen up to the occasion a lot. But Florida's offense has got to get going later in the season. Especially the running game in particular. The passing game, it needs improvement. Just the offense in general needs improvement, but I think Florida gets it done. I just think they take advantage of Vanderbilt being... I think they're going to kick Vanderbilt down while they're already kicked down after this 59-0 humiliation against Alabama. I think Florida gets the win by 17 points. That's kind of a bold prediction of the week based on how Florida's been the last 2 weeks. Or should I say all season, because week 1 against Michigan, their defense was responsible for 14 of the 17 points. Their offense didn't generate any touchdowns in week 1. And they got lucky against Tennessee and Kentucky. So it's kind of the bold prediction based on how Florida's been all season so far. But I think Florida gets a 17-point victory in this matchup. I think they just, like I said, I think they're going to kick Vanderbilt while they're down. Next matchup, Indiana versus number 4 Penn State. Penn State is coming off a walk-off victory against Iowa on the road. 4th and goal touchdown pass as time expires. How does Penn State respond after almost losing? I think that was a humble victory for Penn State. I don't think they're going to take Indiana lightly in this matchup. Although Indiana is a team that could probably pull off an upset every once in a while, or they can play teams tough. But I think Penn State gets the victory here. I don't think they're going to take Indiana lightly in this game, especially considering they almost lost last week to Iowa on the road and almost cost a spot in the college football playoff. But I think Penn State gets it done behind Saquon Barkley in this matchup. I think they're going to keep feeding Saquon, and I think Penn State gets this victory. Next match, number 17 Georgia versus Tennessee. Now this is a SEC East clash. This could determine who plays Alabama in the SEC title game. It has that possibility, considering Georgia and Florida still have to play later in the season. I think Tennessee challenges them in this matchup because Butch Jones is on the hot seat right now. I've seen Tennessee fans on Twitter calling for Butch Jones' head in the last 2 weeks. Considering after that struggle win against Massachusetts, 17-13, Georgia's coming off a dominating victory against Mississippi State at home in the Hedges, 31-3. And I think Georgia continues that dominance, but I think going into an environment like Tennessee, like the Rocky Top, it's going to be a challenge. But I think Georgia just plays the chip on their shoulder, considering what happened last year. Last year, they think they had it won with 10 seconds left in the ball game, but then the unsportsmanlike conduct penalty, they jumped up and down, acted like they won the game. It allowed Evan Berry to return the kickoff into position for Josh Dobbs to throw the Hail Mary to Jawan Jennings. I think they play the chip on their shoulder, considering that running game of Nick Chubb and Sony Michel. I think they get the job done. I think they win by 14. I think Tennessee keeps it close in the first 3 quarters of the ball game, but in the fourth quarter, they're going to do something that Alabama mentally does to teams. They're going to keep pounding the football with their star backs. I think it's going to be one possession going in the half, but then Georgia pulls away as further along the game goes toward the second half. Next, we got Iowa and Michigan State. Both these teams are coming off losses. Michigan State kind of a gut-wrenching loss to Notre Dame, kind of the humiliating loss at home, and Iowa the heartbreaking loss, losing in the last second to Penn State. But I'm picking Iowa in this matchup. I just think they're going to play with a chip on their shoulder. Kind of like all these teams are going to play. I think Georgia plays a chip on their shoulder too, like I just said. But Iowa playing with a chip on their shoulder, considering because when they lost to Penn State, I think that's going to be the chip on the shoulder. Especially losing on the last play of the game, thinking that they had it won. They had it, but it just got away from them. In fact, there was a replay on how it became inches away from being tipped. And I think the Iowa coaching staff has shown them that picture right now in the locker room about how close it was. I think the mentality for Iowa is there's still a lot of season left. They can still manage a 10-2, 11-1 season. I mean, just 2 years ago, Iowa mustered up a 12-0 regular season before losing to Michigan State in the Big Ten Championship game. This could also be another thing. Michigan State was the team that stopped Iowa from going to the College Football Playoff 2 years ago. There could also be some bad blood between that matchup as well. And I think Iowa gets this victory. I just think they're going to kick Michigan State while they're down. Considering Michigan State, they played like the better team against Notre Dame, but they just had too many mistakes in that ball game. I think this gets to Michigan State's head. I think Iowa gets the W. Next match, we got number 24 Mississippi State versus number 15 Auburn. Mississippi State coming off a humiliating 31-3 loss against Georgia on the road. Auburn, a dominating win over Missouri. I think this is going to be a very low-scoring game. Kind of what I said last week. Mississippi State is a different team on the road than they are at home. And I think this is going to apply here. I think it's very low-scoring. Both these teams seem to struggle with offense consistently. Mississippi State, they had a home win against LSU 2 weeks ago. But on the road, I'm not sold on Mississippi State being a dominant team on the road. I think this is very low scoring. I think Auburn wins a low scoring game. I'm going to say 17-13. The Auburn Tigers are going to take this. I think Auburn's defense will be the difference in this matchup. Considering that their defense only allowed 14 points to the defending national champion and number 2 in the country right now, Clemson, we're going to talk about later. I think that's going to be the difference in the ball game. If that offensive line for Auburn can step up to the occasion, I think Auburn might be able to win by a lot more than just 20-17 or 17-13. I think they can win by a bigger margin if the offensive line steps up this week. Number 15 Oklahoma State versus Texas Tech. Oklahoma State coming off kind of a really gut-wrenching loss against TCU because Oklahoma State looked like the better team that day, but they had too many mistakes. They had 3 turnovers in the first half, especially the interception really late in that believe they had 3 turnovers in the first half. You know what? Mason Tinkler, comment below because I can't remember anything. But I do believe Oklahoma State's that turnover in the fourth quarter, the one where they tried to run that trick play, I think that was the ultimate game changer in the game. It seemed like Oklahoma State had the comeback going. Their defense seemed to be the better defense in the second half. But their offense, that play, that trick play that they probably didn't need to run at that point, I think that was the ultimate, I think that's what was the dagger in that game. But I think Oklahoma State gets this win over Texas Tech. I just feel like Oklahoma State recovers. I think they realize that one loss, I don't think it's going to dictate how bad they're going to do the rest of the year. I think they're realizing a lot of teams that had their first loss of the year last week, I think they're just going to grind it out, and they're probably talking as the team. This one loss isn't going to dictate how the season goes. Like, you're only in control of your own destiny. I think this is Oklahoma State's mentality, is that this one loss, it's not going to define the season. Because as long as they win the rest of their games, I think Oklahoma State will make the college football playoff. Because considering the game that they have coming up pretty soon, early in the year than normal is Oklahoma. And if Oklahoma's still undefeated when that Bedlam game takes place, and Oklahoma State wins it, and they run the table, because the Big 12 was having a conference championship game this year. The top 2 teams in the Big 12 are going to play in that conference championship game for the Big 12 conference championship. And if Oklahoma State wins out, I think they make the college football playoff. Even though what Oklahoma State would need to have to happen, they would need either Alabama, Clemson, or USC, or Penn State to lose a game for that to happen. So if Oklahoma State runs the table and Alabama, Penn State, Clemson, or USC loses one game, Oklahoma State's in my opinion. So I think this is the start of Oklahoma State running the table. Next matchup, Ole Miss versus number 1 Alabama. Now this is going to be a more intriguing matchup than we think. Ole Miss has got nothing to lose, considering they are not eligible for the postseason this year. And Alabama's got everything to lose. If Alabama loses this game, it might dictate them not being in the college football playoff, and it can dictate the SEC being left out of the playoff. But I think Alabama gets it done. But I think they need to be careful because Ole Miss is always their kryptonite. And I think if Ole Miss proves they're the kryptonite, I think Alabama's going to be in trouble. But I don't think so. I think Alabama continues to dominate. I think they're going to keep handing the ball off, kind of what they did against Vanderbilt. I think that they have that momentum. I think they're soaring high after the dominating victory against Vanderbilt. I think Ole Miss is really in trouble in this matchup. Although, if they play the mentality they have nothing to lose, I think Ole Miss can win. But the truth be told, I think Alabama wins, but I think Ole Miss gets some points on the board. I'm going to say Alabama 49, Ole Miss 7 or 10, depending on if they get a field goal for the half or not. And finally, the game of the week, number 2 Clemson versus number 12 Virginia Tech. I think this is going to be a great matchup. In fact, I think this could be a preview of the ACC Conference Championship matchup. This could easily be a preview of that. I think could Clemson be challenged in this environment, especially being a primetime game? They could face some challenges, especially Clemson struggling in the first 3 quarters against Boston College last week, but then they outscored them 27-0 they scored 27 straight points in the fourth quarter against Boston College. I think Clemson gets this done. I just think that their defense is one of, if not the best defense of college football. I think this is the only defense that can stop Alabama right now. In fact, I'll even make a bold statement. I think the only 3 teams that could beat Alabama, or have a realistic chance of beating Alabama, are Clemson, Penn State, and maybe Oklahoma. Those are the only 3 teams I could see Alabama possibly having a struggle with. Maybe Georgia could cause some waves if they play in the SEC title game. But let's not get too far. We're only in week 5 of the year. There's a lot more college football left. We're not even in the month of October yet. And November's when it boils. But I think Clemson wins this ball game behind Kelly Bryant. I think he's going to be a huge difference maker in this ball game. I think it's going to be an offensive battle, to tell you the truth. I think Virginia Tech leads early on, but I think Clemson will rally in the second half. I'm saying I think Clemson's going to win in a shootout. I'm going to say 38-35. Clemson wins the last minute. I think Kelly Bryant leads a game-winning drive with about maybe 6 minutes left, and Virginia Tech won't be able to answer. So those are your picks for the week. And here's some bonus picks for me this week. Northern Illinois versus San Diego State. Northern Illinois has upset Nebraska 2 weeks ago. But I think that was just kind of almost a fluke win because Nebraska, they have not looked good at all this year so far. They've already fired their athletic director and Sean Eichhorst. And Coach Mike Riley is on the hot seat. And I think San Diego State, I think they could be the team that could stop South Florida from getting the group of 5 bid. And I think San Diego State beats Northern Illinois, so that's bonus pick number 1. Bonus pick number 2, Miami and Duke. Duke is surprisingly 4-0 to start the year. Miami's still unbeaten. But I'm going to pick the Miami Hurricanes in this matchup. I think that defense will be the difference in the ballgame, especially with that new turnover chain that they've got. I think that's a really cool thing. I think it's gonna be a nice fad. I think it's gonna be an awesome thing that they're gonna have. I think Miami wins by 7 points. It's gonna be close to what we think. So 2 bonus picks this week: San Diego State over Northern Illinois and Miami over Duke. So that's all I have for you today. Like and subscribe to the channel. Follow me on Twitter, JB Talk Sports. I will see you next time. Have a great day, everybody.